Alrighty, it is time for the 10th anniversary edition of Hot Takes, where we take a look at people's opinions on how the part 1 played out, see how they're feeling, get a temperature check. Reminder, there's going to be some gameplay up in the background. This is not a showcase. This is just going to be a little something for you to watch while I cut through these opinions, which I'll flash on screen, blur out here and there. If you want showcases, I have some up on the channel, but this is not what this is. Let's get into them. As a final little note, I couldn't get to all of them. There were just way too many. We'd be here forever. So what I tried to do is pick opinions that sort of echoed multiple opinions that I saw. So if you don't see yours here, keep watching. There's probably one that I picked that was a little longer, a little denser, that literally covers the thing you were asking. So let's go. First up, we have Captain Antilles and Blue Check Maya, who I have paired because I thought their opinions on the anniversary were similar enough to cover both in the same section. Captain Antilles says, if Strength Vegeta was on the same level as AGL Forku and Vegito, I don't think the community would be nearly as pessimistic about the celebration. If all three headlining LRs were comfortably at the top of the game, the community and myself personally could brush off the superclass SEZAs so far. Still, I say part 1 is like an 8 out of 10 for them. And Blue Check Maya says, there's been a ton of content, great units. I don't mind the free-to-play units being part 2 because you couldn't awaken them usually until then anyways. Very true. The Super Easy A's are exactly what Super Easy A's should be, so I'm fine with them. I think we've had a ton of stuff to do, good units to use, and regardless of if Vegeta wasn't the best, I mean, it still made the banner more valuable than any other Carnival banner so far. I think the, I'm actually going to tackle the last bit of that sentence firsthand is Vegeta not being as good as he, I guess, needed to be is one thing, but this is a great point. The Vegeta does make the Carnival banner so much better. Imagine what you're getting if it's not Vegeta there. It's probably not a top 15 character in the game. It's probably closer to something like a top, I don't know, 45 character in the game. Like, just an abysmal, basically unusable, mostly for fun unit, where if you pulled Vegeta and maybe you pulled Vegito and then you pulled Vegeta, but you didn't get the Forku, you still have 1, the best unit in the game, and 2, a character that does make teams better, and it's Dokkan Battle. We're bound to get more strong Universal Survival Saga this year. It's kind of just what happens. I mean, we're literally getting more strong Super Saiyan or Ultra Universal Survival Saga in a week. Like, it's literally coming in a few days, is the Goku and Frieza, so there it is. I think to both of their points though, the Vegeta is a little bit of a sour spot, even though you can look on the bright side like we just did. The Super Easy A's are the thing that I talk about mostly, which is that the super class among them, the Vegito and Gogeta, even though Gogeta is a good bit better than Vegito, whatever the case may be, they have their uses, but I talk about them like I know the game is going to get harder. I think a lot of people just talk about them like they're good against Goku and Frieza, and even Vegito, the AGL Super Easy A Vegito, seems to be pretty good against the new Frieza fight, but I'm always sort of considering what is next for Dokkan, and I expect characters released in the 10th anniversary to hold us over for a while. You know, these characters are meant to be staples, especially for how new player centric the celebration has been themed, like the build up to it, the sync, everything. So if you hear me be particularly hard on Gogeta and Vegito as Super Easy A's, know that it's only because I'm looking at the future, which is all of these new people I said, hey, you should start playing Dokkan Battle. Hey, you don't have to worry about pulling these units because they'll be there. One of those things that was super true is that Beast still looks phenomenal, but the Super Easy A's they range from very strong like Buhan, really strong like Janemba, and then to pretty strong like Vegito and Gogeta, and I don't know how that shakes up in another week or two when hardest fight in the game, you know, Supreme Battle Vegito comes out and instantly kills them, right? Who knows? Here we've got Ashy Muted saying, people are definitely downplaying the amount of content we're getting. We've already gotten 4 story events, a brand new challenge event, 2 red zones, a new Supreme Battle spectacle. It seems they're backloading normal Easy A's and think people are just being thrown off by that. Of course, this is being recorded, by the way, after the LR, Goku, and Frieza from Namek have been released. So, reminder that the people who have posted these opinions don't have the aftermath in mind. They just, you know, precognition or whatever. In hindsight, the LR Easy A's caused even more of a storm, which is very amusing. But I still have hope that the Gogeta and I mean, I guess both Gogetas, the Gods and the Super Saiyan 4s, will be very good because all of the LR anniversary characters typically are. That said, they are right. The easy A's have been mostly super easy A's or just ticky-tack easy A's that haven't really moved the needle a bunch. Reminder that during the countdown celebrations, typically we'd see big spectacle easy A's with great animations like the strength UI Goku from last year. Even though he didn't stay good for long, you know, he's still fun for the moment, and we got to see that moment relived again. I talk about it all the time. The most important thing for me with easy A's is that I don't care if you get Gogeta every single year for anniversary, so long as I get Namek Goku, whose easy A is good, which is why the new LR Namek Goku's easy A being bad is really frustrating for me, but it is what it is. That said, the content has been undeniable. We're going to get a few posts in here talking about how much currency people have been making over the celebration so far. I felt like it was high. Some people feel like it's low. And different experiences, obviously. I haven't been keeping track with the number. So if you've made it this far, if you've seen the number or if you've been keeping track of the number, how many stones have been made so far currently? Do you know? Let me know down below. But yeah, I felt like the content has been pretty steady, pretty good. Every 1 or 2 or 3 days, we get something that is worth doing. And I definitely think the floor of content has gone up, where there's actually more that's worth doing now than there typically is during any celebration. Here we have John Bruh and Always 5 on Kobe talking about content again, essentially another expounding on that, so I'll place these together. So John Bruh says, Annie has been really fun for me so far. The units have been great, and there haven't been true fumbles besides Evo Vegeta. Just hoping for a really hard fight where you actually feel super satisfied beating it. Last time I actually was like, oh my god, I can't believe I beat this, was with OG Red Zone Broly. I wasn't there for that, but I hear it was a fucking monster. So let's go to Always 5 on Kobe. Says, Dokkan in 2024 operated on different plane to the Dokkan everyone knows. You need to be able to tank massive supers in slot 1 to be considered amongst the best, and only maybe a few characters have gotten away with this in the last 12 months or so. However, I think that this year we've gotten to the point where yes, offense is great, yes, defense is amazing and can save you runs, yes, support for your main guys is very helpful, but if you want to be considered the best, you kind of have to do everything at an extremely high level. AGL Super Saiyan 4 is a perfect example of how units should be designed going forward. Vegito also. I think units not designed like this will just not cut it, especially if bosses are pumping out 5 million supers casually. Ahem, strength SSBE. By the way, we now have 7 million with the Frieza. So again, hindsight, these were established before that character was released, so now we have an even stronger form of this. TLDR, Powercreep in 2025 is going to render a lot of units useless if they can't do everything or close to it. And yeah, I mean, Powercreep is here. Powercreep is real. I said it really early on that the 2020% are the most important thing that have been shown in this celebration, because obviously the 200% were going to start easy A-ing, and there needed to be a place for them to go. I assume they'll end up being like 210 or something like that, but we don't know yet. Maybe they'll do the carnivals and then Vegito's and Gogeta's DFEs being like a 250 or whatever the fuck it is like the new cap. But either way, 220% is now the bar, and we're going to see characters be defined by that bar, because when these numbers get deep, when you're in the new strength Frieza red zone and he hits your unit for 790,000, you can live that now because of how high HP values have gotten. That said, if you are a character without a 220%, and if you are a character who cannot lead a team with a 220%, we're starting to see the cracks show. However, thankfully, characters like Beast, who fit into this role that they've described, which is that characters who are strong, multifaceted, just do everything really well, are continuing to be very useful. Beast's active turn is still extremely strong. Vegito obviously needs no mention. The Super Saiyan 3 Goku needs no mention. Yeah, I think Power Creep is here, and for a while I saw people sort of coping that it wasn't going to be, that we probably wouldn't see the game scale up in any major way. I was very surprised by this because it just seemed obvious that they had to go somewhere with leader skills, essentially. They had to do something with them, and I think they've definitely pulled that off. We don't even know what the end of the celebration fight's gonna look like, but it's already looking fucking awesome, bro. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. Selfless3055 says the 10th Annie is 100% the best celebration in history. Everyone's saying that it's a dry celebration with no content, or just global players who do all the easy content way too fast. Usually the really difficult fights come out in part 2 or 3. SSBE Vegeta is by far the worst part 1 celebration LR. He is really underwhelming. However, being underwhelming doesn't make him horrible or trash. He still is in the top 20 at least. I think he's in the top like 13, 14. So just outside of the top 10 for me. But I mean, you know, what's the difference between the top 14 and the top 20? It's not that much. AGL Super Vegito is not as good as he should have been. He really is just a 25 version of the 2023 Fizz Easy A Vegito. Tanking normal is not as important as super attacks. Vegito is horrible against supers, and don't say that, oh, he is a scouter. The 50% scouter is not a consistent ability, and you rarely get that ability. Counters are not good enough. Tech Vegito is an exception, of course. Tech Vegito's counters are certainly something. Seeing that character just knock units around, like just fucking blast bosses with that kick, is exactly what needed to happen. And Super Saiyan 4 fans need to stop meat munching him being back because of AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku. If you need another unit to be good, then you suck, plain and simple. In Super Saiyan 4, Goku has never been consistent and is horrible in base. The dismal future red zone back in 2023 was more than enough proof to foderize in Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Shut the fuck up and let him fucking die. Enjoy my rant. 10th anniversary is great and everyone knows it. I will say about Int Super Saiyan 4 and needing other units is that is what made the trio so interesting, is that the trio brought characters back who were no longer good, but the difference was that because Super Saiyan 4 Goku, it feels like this fumble, feels like this exception, feels like this mistake in the timeline, people have a lot of attachment to him, and obviously he has some of the best animations in Dokkan period. So it makes sense why people want him to be quote-unquote back. But if you guys remember, the AGL Saiyan duo from the Metal Cooler movies, like, they were back because of the trio briefly, and no one was like, yo, they're the GOATs now, they might be top 10, you know what I mean? Like, if your character completely relies on another character to even exist, it doesn't really speak highly of your character, it just speaks highly of the character doing the lifting. It's kind of the situation that the LR Namek Goku is currently in, where he can do fine, he can be okay, he could even have turns where he looks really good, but ultimately he is completely a slave to the characters around him, and for that reason we don't really see that many cases of that where we also consider the unit exceptional, right? We don't see many cases where you're completely reliant on the characters around you and you're also the GOAT, right? Janemba, the LR Fizz Janemba isn't the fucking GOAT because he's on uncontrollable power. He's the GOAT because he's fucking he's Janemba, like he's really good, right? So I get this point. Yeah, enjoy 10th anniversary. It's a really good celebration. I think people do spout out the dry content allegations a lot, but I don't think this has been a case of that. People might have been saying that. I have seen it a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like there's been quite a bit to do, even if you forced it. Here we have Julian Skies 782 saying, I've been playing this game on and off since it came out, so I'm proud that we're here. Although I think that this anniversary so far is one of the best, my issue is the lack of variety when it comes to the saga representation. I'm about to get in my bag. Dragon Ball itself needs it. Z needs more Saiyan Saga and better Namek representation. I'm about to get in my fucking bag. GT I think is actually in a decent spot, except that Shadow Dragons and Super is all over the place. I understand Dokkan needs to focus on the more popular and known sagas, characters, but these misrepresented sagas have some hype that will feel fresher, and we need LR Demon King Pico to have the pull that LR Master Roshi had on release. Just saying. I could make so many videos talking about this. Recently, I was making fun of a tweet before, and someone responded that a lot of Dokkan fans are probably younger. A lot of Dragon Ball fans are probably younger. I might make a video talking about the new interview that came out about Daima, which was essentially that it's a retread to some degree of GT, which has come with its own problems, right? The adventure style, the pacing. It's a show that wants to be 60 episodes long, but for some reason it's 20 episodes long. It's a very odd show to watch, but I haven't really given any opinions at all on Daima because I'm kind of waiting to see the full project. But as it goes, sneak peek, I probably wouldn't rewatch this outside of just like some of the more interesting moments. I feel like it's done a lot for the world building, but it really doesn't do itself any favors with its pacing, and it's sure living up to that GT brand. Like, but either way, yeah, Dokkan is in a weird spot, and so is Legends, where they do this thing where so often they completely ignore entire phases of the series that it's from, and in favor of doing more of the recent stuff. But that said, Shueisha's not letting the manga go into any games, so we're sort of just retreading specific points in Super a lot. Things like UI, Mastered UI, things like I mean, the end of the tournament, things like Gogeta and Beast and Vegito over and over. But for whatever reason, Dokkan doesn't want to go full hog either. Like, I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of Super, and I'm not a Super detractor either. I'm just like, yeah, Super's alright. It's pretty good. It has some great moments. But like, we haven't gotten a Goku Black in forever. Like, if they're going to do this with Super, if they're going to just go ham full hard on for Tournament of Power and Super in general, they don't even really lean into the other characters that are interesting. Goku Black hasn't been seen on a TV, on a screen, in 7 or 8 years or some shit. And he's still one of the most popular characters in the series, I'd imagine. Like, I think one of the big reasons that Dokkan feels samey a lot of the time is that even though it tries to pick points to inject some of the variety in, things like Z, things like GT, what ends up happening so often, like they did last year, was Dynamis connected to the Majin Buu saga. So instead of anything else from Z, really, we got a billion Majin characters. We got the Namek Vegeta, which felt like a throwaway unit. So now, while you can't, it reminds me of the worldwide download celebration from last year, where people said, we have bad content, but there's a lot of it. And it's like, well, what the fuck is that? Like, what is that statement? We have content, but it's bad? Like, what are we doing here? What is the point being made? Like, oh, we have Namek representation, they just suck every time. Okay, yeah, Dokkan's in a weird spot, very weird spot. I think 2025 will be very important for representation in Dokkan, and I'm going to make a video talking about the weird place villains are in right now. Apollo music was taken. I started like 2 weeks before Global's 9th anniversary. Of course, I was way more excited because everything was new to me. So with me being a bit more used to everything now, I gotta say, it's alright. I'm not fully versed with stuff like team building or units in general, so I don't get all much hype with super easy A's. Dokkan Chronicles has been tough for me though, and I haven't been able to get any of the stages done, so that's something. Yeah, Dokkan Chronicles is a very funny little segment, because if you aren't a long-time player, or if you haven't pulled a bunch where you've just gotten a bunch of these characters through osmosis essentially, it's basically impossible to do. But yeah, I've been chipping away at that myself. I mean, my account's 3 years old. I've been chipping away at it, right? So, but that said, yeah, I get that. The weird part of part 1 just being front-loaded with super easy A's was an odd choice. I would have much preferred we saw the Saiyan Saga easy A's, and then now it's part 2, we're gonna see the LR Namek easy A's, rather than like spread it out this much. It definitely felt like if you weren't a huge fan of the super easy A's that came out, then you were kind of looking at the part 1 in terms of its bonus content as like sideways. You were like, all right. So next up here, we've got Daniel and Ooga Booga. Unit wise, both Super Saiyan Goku, Vegeta, and Super Saiyan 3 Goku are very nice to see and use. Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta is just disappointing. Event wise, I'm doing cleanup on older story challenge events, and it hasn't been too bad. It's nice. Overall, this unit's part 2 is going to be very interesting to see, concerning we get 3 new LRs and 2 LR easy A's. Well, we've seen 2 of them, and they were something, surely. Ooga Booga says, I really enjoy the Annie so far, but I can really feel the lack of stones. I swear I was only able to do like 2 rotations max when during other celebrations. I could have done 5 rotations in part 1. But like I said, the celebration is still really good. Yeah, I think one of the things that maybe they just took signs from what we said in feedback and stuff, but more people wanted stones after beating the content rather than just thrown at us, because it made the content seem less worth doing. And where I fall on that is there definitely should be stones in the content, but also you should hand out stones. I'm still, anticipating a big graph that says here, this is how many stones we made during part 1, this is part 2, this is EX, this is how many, and the 10th anniversary better have that number be really high, I think. Because otherwise, a bunch of people that, like, let's say you started your account 4 months ago, and you weren't able to save up enough stones, maybe you pulled on like Namek Vegeta or some shit, and you were just like, really excited. It would actually be worth re-rolling your account for Vegito and Gogeta in a few days. Like, it sucks to say, but if they're not going to give out a huge trove of stones for the 10th anniversary, then when are they going to? I would go as far as to say that if I was 10 years into a gacha game, a mark that not many companies reach, maybe FGO, yeah, you should just hand out 1,000 stones or something. That's way too generous. Obviously, I'm being unrealistic because this is a gacha game ultimately, but that's really reasonable to me. So we'll see, we'll see. Next, we've got Food and Dokkan Trooper paired up. I saw them back to back, so I figured I'd just put them in a single screenshot. I can't wait for LR Super Mario. Also, Annie so far seems good, but the shaft is real. 2.9k stones, no new units. I got Vegito from Pity, but 220% leader skills seem to be a massive deal. Like, I still mostly run 170s, but now if content is scaled around 220, it could be a really bad meta for free-to-plays for a while till we get some new 220s. And so far, it seems like the power creep is one, going to be too easy, or two, be a bit hard closer to 7th year than any other years, but not on that level yet. Yeah, okay. And then Dokkan Trooper says, my feeling about the 10th anniversary is that for now, I wish I pulled all 3 units. 2.5k, 1 Vegito, 3 Vegetas, no Super Saiyan 4. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Feel like it was rigged for sure. We haven't gotten enough stones, and if I didn't deliberately not do events to save stones, I'd be screwed. I don't feel we are getting enough stones even for Pity, especially because we get 3 new LRs and 3 more to get. Pity should be 1.5 at least. I think the Vegeta is fine, but he can definitely be improved. It just sucks being a free-to-play in Dokkan since you miss out on so much. You can only really summon on major banners just to get shafted. Let's see how it goes for new as I farm Dokkan Chronicle tickets. Yeah, it is a mess. I think 6 LRs. I mean, Goresh mentioned it like offhandedly right before the celebration started, and I think most people were like, no, they couldn't do that. And then they popped that shit out like it was immediate. I think I said, I'll be candid, I think I said, nah, they're probably not gonna do that. But yeah, I think getting shafted for this banner or for this celebration does feel like fucking shit, because Dokkan is generous if you never really pull outside of the major celebrations, which now that we're on the same timeline is going to be pretty nice, because we're going to sort of go from the anniversary, big empty zone, Saiyan Day, big empty zone, Golden Week, big empty zone, Tanabata, big empty zone, worldwide, instead of going Tanabata, anniversary, worldwide, or however we were doing it before, like anniversary, Tanabata, worldwide as a global player. But yeah, I suspect that the power creep is not going to be easy, but is in fact going to be pretty fucking brutal. But that is just my rough estimate. I've had characters that have been reliable all year getting caught. I've had people say that UI Goku, AGL UI Goku is dodging less, that they probably fudged his numbers a little bit. I mean, maybe. Like, I think the power creep's gonna get pretty dire come part 2/3. Like I said, the strength Frieza fight already looks brutal, so we'll see, man. Magdalene, oh my god, says, I think the anniversary is pretty good overall. Very good headliners aside from Vegeta, who's not bad, but just fine. But the standard should be higher for an anniversary LR, especially the 10th anniversary. Very true. About content, there's a lot. Taking into account that part 1 is usually the weakest, people are burning through it and say there's no content when Dokkan is a mobile game, and people played like 4 hours day 1. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do, and I think that, I brought this up earlier, unlike the worldwide download celebration last year, the content's pretty good. Like, it's pretty reasonable. There are interesting mechanics. Even before we got the Frieza fight just now during the beginning of part 2, there were some good fights there that at least offered different challenges for teams, rather than strictly being, oh, every single team can go through this no problem and no one will ever get caught. So, adding to content, tomorrow there is a new event and there will be lots of red zone stages and possibly 2 easy ALRs, the 10th, and even more content on the side. I would say having new content around 1 or 2 days from one another is pretty good. Very true. I think the thought about no content is about the SEZA spam, which I think could have been handled better, easy-aing the Saiyan Saga LRs now instead of Vegeta and Janemba, taking into account what is coming out in part 2. I literally said this without having even read this comment fully before. Yeah, I think the Saiyan Saga, or either the Saiyan Saga should have easy-aid this part, or the Namek Saga should have easy-aid this part, but having just SEZAs was very weird, especially for stone count, but you could argue that they did that on purpose. About the quality of the SEZAs, I would say they're still all at least good. Buhan is way too good. Janemba is very good. Vegito would also say is very good, and Vegeta is at least fine. Should have been better, sure, but I don't think he is bad. Yeah, I don't think he's bad. I just think whenever I talk about Vegito, I'm like, damn, what's gonna happen in a week? You know what I mean? Like, a week ago, like, he might just be fucking dead soon. So we'll see. But yeah, all these points are pretty good, or great even. And I think that's how I'm feeling. If I was to say that there's any opinion I would say is my own, it's this one, which is there's been a lot of things to do. The SEZA spam was weird because of just pacing. Maybe they were just trying to keep stones away from players, but that's, I mean, that's scummy, but it is a gotcha. and that the Super EZAs themselves have been very odd. They've been odd, at least. Vegito is the biggest blunder, and Vegeta's release has only gotten worse as Goku and Frieza have been revealed, because it's like, why are we doing Tournament of Power twice? Why are we doing Tournament of Power twice, and it's not at least like a Hit or a Kefla or, I don't know, even a Jiren, even an Anniversary Jiren is more interesting than Good Guys, Good Guys Anniversary Unit TOP, followed by Good Guys Anniversary Unit TOP. I would have taken Kaioken Blue Goku, because at least that's from an earlier part of the TOP. Like, you know, anything but literally 2 sections from the end of the series, which also, I don't know, just odd. Very odd for them to have gone that way, just decision-wise, not even taking into account the design of the character, which is a little bit of a fumble, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe Goku and Frieza will be fucking different. I am glad that it's a Frieza unit. We got Conkus here saying, you say it how it is, V-Lone, and I love it. Hey, you know, I try to be fair. You know, more than anything, I just try to be fair. This ain't bad at all so far, and it's definitely fun, but it's not enough, which is okay since we aren't at the point of the Annie yet. The SEZAs are fun, all 4, even though Buhan makes me want to run Majin Power all day long. True. This has a lot of potential, but the whole part 1 is the best celebration ever, so trash. Claims like that sour me because all I do is log in, beat Goku and Frieza on repeat. Like, come on now. Yeah, I think some of the like best celebration ever, outside of just being like, I think this will be the best celebration ever, it's a little premature, because so far it's been cool. You know, it's definitely been cool, and I don't mean that to understate the celebration at all. Please mark my words, y'all, when I say that it's been cool is a lot better than I was to the Worldwide Download celebration. If y'all remember, if any of you were there for me during Worldwide Download celebration, I was like, yo, the characters are good, but is this not trash? I've literally just been link leveling this celebration. Like, every fight was dismissible, and Global didn't have Goku and Frieza yet. Like, Global literally didn't have anything to do during last year's Worldwide. It was so fucking funny. But thank you. And yeah. Part 1 has been about what it needs to be, but did not exceed for me yet. Not yet. But we are in Part 2 now, which is already seeming like good old content. We got the good characters in Part 1, and now we're getting the content now. And last but not least, we have Zero Main 43 saying, Part 1 is great for the most part. True. Tech Vegito is godlike, exactly as strong as he should be. True. Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4 is godlike, exactly as strong as he should be. Definitely as strong as Vegito, although he doesn't have the team to show it yet, as his lead sucks balls, even though I don't have him. Oh, it's tough. I don't know if he's as strong at the peak as Vegito is, but you could argue that because Vegito is 2 turns, maybe that Super Saiyan 3 Goku has just like this fullness about his kit, like he's just always strong. But you know, I will say that Vegito feels like he's gapping the game currently in a vacuum, but we'll see when Gogeta comes out in a few days. So Strength Vegeta is underwhelming, yeah, but also a bit underrated. He's not horrible like everyone is saying, he's just not great, and once AGL UI and Tech UI can't solo events anymore, he will look a lot better. The Cuck era will end in a week, but again, he's still underwhelming and not as strong as an anniversary headliner should be. Also, he's on the wrong fucking team. If he led a different category, he would have been much better because of how crowded Team Unisaga is with good units, although he probably would still have been underwhelming. Yeah, his team isn't really the problem in terms of what his lead is. It's just that, like, this is the problem when people are like, oh, they're just going to do hype, they can do the same thing over and over and over and over. But it's like, do you guys remember when Super came out last year on 9th anniversary and the Gammas came out? And instead of releasing Cell Max in the Gamma spot, the Gammas got kicked off their team after like a month because there were so many good super units that you literally didn't want to run this character whose only thing it could do was die. Like, the Gammas were fine, but because they weren't an artificial life form's lead primarily, because they weren't primarily focused around helping out artificial life forms, which is a different category than just superheroes, they had the issue where Beast couldn't die, UI Goku at the time couldn't die, Vegeta couldn't die, you know, just over and over, all these characters, and then Tech UI came out, couldn't die. There just came a point where it was like, why run the Gammas at all? Just at all, outside of fun, obviously, you know, fun's most important, but if you were just talking like, who is going to get me through this event, why run the Gammas at all? Their only thing is that they could be the ones who die for you. And I think Vegeta and Tournament of Power in general have that problem where you're literally just going onto your screen. Say you've been playing for the entire year and you've pulled on the Universal Survival characters. You're going to make a team and you're going to go, I could bring Strength EZA Kefla, but she fucking dies. So instead, I'm just going to bring 17 and Golden Frieza who don't. You know what I mean? And that's like the decision. Yeah. So I think that category is just way too crowded, and it speaks to the issue of, yeah, they could just do the same thing over and over again, but you're just going to power creep your characters because they're not useful for other categories. They're only useful for Universal Survival Saga typically. But Buon is cracked, not much else to say. Janemba is cracked, not much else to say. AGL Vegito is fine, but he'll probably be dead in a week. And Strength Gogeta is fine, but again, probably be dead in a week. Well, this is coming true. 5 days ago, we got the Strength Frieza fight now, and it's looking tough for them. Events are fun, if a little bit too easy for the most part, fair enough. But hard content is what Part 2 is for. And as a global player, it's great to finally get all the content when we're supposed to for the most part, although getting the events early like we did with the 3rd and 4th anniversary battle stages isn't a big issue. True. I think one of the reasons that things may feel either too hyperbolic in a positive sense or too hyperbolic in a negative sense is because we're all playing at the same time finally. Something I will say is that with what Super EZA Vegito and Gogeta do, it feels like the base idea for their EZAs may have been on the burner for a while. Probably around when Super EZAs were first announced and just waiting to be dropped, while Janemba and Buhan were likely made more recently, with design philosophy closer to 10th anniversary, which is why they're much better. I see no other reason why Gogeta and Vegito wouldn't be equivalent in quality to Janemba and Buhan or even Beerus. That's an interesting point. I talk about this a lot. Sometimes you'll hear people like the Truth say there's no way Vegeta was rushed or what have you, and to that I would say we don't know that they weren't. And the reason I say that is because, like, if you just look at them, they don't look like the same bar. I'm just going to keep saying the bar is the bar. If you release Buhan, that is the bar. So when Gogeta and Vegito come out and I'm like, hey, what happened to the bar you just set? I start to wonder what was happening in-house, right? So it is what it is. But that's going to do it for Hot Takes, man. It was a long one. If you made it this far, thank you for rocking with me. We all gonna make it. Good luck in your pulls in a few days. Like if you like the video, subscribe to join a club, and I'm grateful for y'all. Peace.